because of the importance of the crime numbers which were released today, which show the increase in so many places of violent crime. As you heard Dr. Jean Redpath explaining, it does seem that something has changed in our society that may well be linked to the impact of the lockdown, the long-term economic impact of the lockdown, and what happened. Well, let's hear now from Cape Town's Mayor, Geordin Hill-Lewis, about the LEAP program in partnership with the Western Cape Provincial Government. Mr. Mayor, good afternoon to you. What impact do you believe the LEAP program is having on violent crime?
Stephen, apologies for appearing on your show in a T-shirt. I'm here in Nyanga for a by-election we're having today. But I do, it's appropriate to be in Nyanga actually, because this is one of the LEAP deployment areas. It's one where violent crime is particularly serious. And in a very concerning national picture of crime stats released today, there are a couple of points of light that I think we do need to focus on in Cape Town. One of them is in Gugulethu, which has seen a 30% plus reduction in murder. Philippi East, which just a few months ago was very near to the top of the list. When we deployed LEAP there earlier this year in July, it was very near the top of the list. It has now fallen off altogether. So, there are some encouraging results. Another reduction in Kraaifontein, a big reduction in Delft, 17.5% reduction in Delft, I think it was. A further reduction in Khayelitsha and Harare. So some useful points of light. By no means, Stephen, are we calling victory. This is an extremely violent country, and these statistics paint quite a bleak picture for the country. But let's acknowledge that there are some points of light, and there are some demonstrations that the model of basic visible policing, which is essentially the LEAP model, it's nothing sophisticated, frankly, that it can work, that it can reduce violent crime.
You say it reduces violent crime. We've seen huge issues in Cape Town and in the Western Cape around taxi violence recently. We've seen the strike this week, the two-day strike, but even before that, huge issues with taxi violence. Is LEAP able to stop that?
That's more difficult. That's more of a transport enforcement issue and the kind of gang warfare that takes place between rival taxi factions and so on. So that's not really LEAP's mandate. LEAP's mandate is specifically focused at contact crimes and kind of personal violent crimes in communities, and to do so by doing good old-fashioned visible policing, walking the streets, being visible in your vehicle, stopping vehicles and searching them for weapons and so on, pursuing suspects. All things that SAPS, unfortunately, by no fault of their own, we work with some excellent SAPS officers and station commanders on the ground, but they are operating in an extremely resource-constrained environment and in many cases don't have working vehicles and so on. So they can't do that good old-fashioned visible police work that really does help to deter and prevent crime.
Do you believe, we've seen some people not even being able to write exams this week, as I understand it. You talk about the LEAP program, you talk about trying to reduce taxi violence, very difficult things to do. Do you believe what you're doing can actually be copied in other places?
Yes, I do think so. I do think that there is the beginning, and I use that word advisedly because, of course, violent crime is still far too high in these places. But there is the beginnings of a model that is proving some success in a context nationally where there is very little success in bringing down crime anywhere. So I think it certainly deserves more attention, more study, and more replication. Yes, let's try this in some of those other areas. Intensive focus on visible policing, I think, will work. And of course, add to that the fact that it is data-led and intelligence-led. We are not simply deploying these officers wherever we feel like. It is very much based on where the data tells us that crimes are most likely to take place, the specific hotspots, and that does seem to be working.
We've got the festive season really starting in a couple of weeks now, often because people are on holiday. That can lead to more violence. Sometimes there's a lot more alcohol that's consumed as well, which is a big factor. Is LEAP going to be working during the festive season? Do you think it'll have an impact then?
Yes, it will, but it's not doing kind of beach patrol work. Remember, LEAP is very focused. LEAP is only deployed where the data tells us the likelihood of violent crime is highest. We try to be extremely disciplined about that. We don't want a dilution of focus. We want LEAP to be absolutely focused on its core task. So we have other additional law enforcement deployments for beach patrol and for festive season patrol in other parts of the city that are very focused. You are quite right on alcohol in particular. Alcohol is a very dangerous ingredient in the festive season that often causes drownings and causes road accidents. So there's a separate team focusing on that.
Geordin Hill-Lewis, thank you, the Mayor of the City of Cape Town. Do appreciate it.